The snow had started to fall, turning the street outside the elite private casino into a glowing strip of gold and white. Luxury cars pulled up one after another. Men in tailored suits, women in diamonds. And then Steven Seagal walked toward the entrance alone. No security, no spotlight, just a dark coat and quiet steps. One of the younger men near the door noticed him and laughed. "Wrong place, old man." Another lifted his phone. "Wait, this is content." A shoulder slammed into him as they walked past. Not enough to hurt. Enough to humiliate. Steven didn't react, didn't speak, didn't even look at them. That silence made them bolder. "Say something." One of them mocked. "Or are you scared?" People turned. Watching. Recording. Waiting for the explosion. But Steven simply adjusted his sleeve and looked at the door like none of them existed, because what they didn't know, what no one there could have imagined, was that in another country, in another life, men who had touched him like that had disappeared without a trace. And tonight, he had come here for a reason. Have you ever been disrespected by someone who had no idea who you really were? Inside, the casino glowed with money and arrogance. Crystal lights, private tables, silent bodyguards, and Steven walked through it like a man who didn't belong, which was exactly why no one noticed who he was. Years ago, long before Hollywood, long before fame, he had lived in Moscow. Not as a celebrity. As a student of a system built on discipline and loyalty. He trained with men who never raised their voices. Men whose power was measured in silence. Men who taught him one rule: respect is not requested, it is observed. The organization he became connected to was never named in public. But in certain circles, doors opened when his name was mentioned. Protection, control, balance. And tonight's casino, this exact building, was operating under that protection. Or at least, it was supposed to. He hadn't come for money. He hadn't come for attention. He had come because someone inside had broken the rules. And the way people treated him at the door told him everything he needed to know. Why do people only show respect when they see power? The same group followed him inside. Louder now, drunk on the attention.
"Hey, get this! He thinks he can play here!"
A glass of whiskey was pushed into his chest. The liquid spilled down his coat. Lauder exploded. A camera moved closer to his face. Look at him, he won't even fight back. Around them, people watched the way crowds always do when they're grateful the target isn't them. Steven stood still. Calm eyes moving slowly across the room. Counting, not people, exits. Positions, cameras. One of the men stepped in front of him and shoved him. Harder this time, and for the first time, Steven looked directly at him. No anger, no emotion. Just recognition. The kind that makes your stomach drop without knowing why. From across the room, an older security chief froze. His face went pale. Because he knew that look. He had seen it once years ago, in a place where no one spoke above a whisper. He grabbed his radio with shaking hands. "Confirm something for me," he said quietly. And the answer he got made the blood leave his face. Has someone ever pushed you too far, without realizing the line they crossed? The music stopped. Not slowly. Instantly. Like someone had pulled the life out of the building. Two men in black suits rushed toward Steven and stopped in front of him. Not aggressive, respectful. "Sir, we didn't know you were coming." The word "sir" hit the air like a gunshot. The phones that had been recording lowered. The bullies looked at each other, confused. "What's going on?" The security chief walked up, almost bowed. And then he said the name. Not loudly. But everyone heard it. A whisper that spread across the room in seconds. One of the bullies laughed nervously. "Who is that?" No one answered him. Because in the high-stakes rooms of that city, that name was never said as a joke. A call was made. In Russian short. Urgent. The reply came back just as fast. And the man holding the phone stepped away from Steven like he had touched fire. Because the message was simple. You let them touch him. The entire atmosphere changed. Not anger. Fear. Real fear. What happens when the person you mocked turns out to be the one everyone else answers to? A folder was brought to him. Accounts. Transfers. Unauthorized deals. The casino had been used for private laundering. Under his protection. Without permission, that wasn't business. That was betrayal. One of the men who had humiliated him stepped forward, his voice shaking. "We didn't know who you were." Steven looked at him calmly. "That's not the problem." His voice was quiet. Deadly. "The problem is how you treat people you think are nothing." Silence. Phones began vibrating across the room. Access denied, accounts frozen, partnerships terminated, protection gone. In the world he came from, violence was the last step. Removal was the first. The men who had been untouchable 5 minutes ago were now alone. No backing, no power, no future in that city. And they finally understood. They hadn't insulted a man. They had insulted the system that allowed them to exist. Should power be used for revenge or for justice? "I didn't come here for punishment," Steven said. I came for discipline. Security stepped forward, not to drag anyone, just to stand there. And that was enough, because everyone in that room knew what it meant when protection was removed. The leader of the group tried one last time. We can fix this. Steven shook his head slowly. Respect was the price of staying here. He turned away, and just like that, their world ended. No shouting, no fight, only consequence. Do you believe silence is the highest form of power? On his way out, he stopped at the entrance. The young employee who had earlier been pushed aside by the bullies stood there, nervous. Steven handed him a chip from the high-stakes table. For the way you treated people, he said. Outside, the snow was still falling. The same as when he arrived. He walked down the steps alone. No victory, no announcement. Because real power doesn't perform, it corrects. The story of that night spread across the city in hours. Not about the men who lost everything, but about one simple truth. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who doesn't need to prove it. More powerful stories are coming. Tell us which moment gave you chills and what you would have done in his place. Because your comment decides the next story.